Hey everyone, how are you doing? I hope you're having a great Monday. This is Andy Slammons from Amazing Freedom. I have a very special guest today, someone who I've known for, I guess, 4 to 5 years now, who is a monster seller on Amazon. I'm not even going to give the number that he sells every year, but it's like in the gazillions, if that is a proper numerical word. Eddie is a fantastic Amazon seller, helps out a tremendous amount of people. Again, the reason for these interviews is to bring you real sellers on Amazon. I am definitely tired of all the noise of folks making it sound like selling on Amazon is easy as baking a cake. It is not. You have to have great business practices. You have to use great common sense business principles. And a lot of it is about capital allocation. It's about managing that cash flow. And I'm bringing you someone today who does that in an excellent way. I visited his warehouse. He's located near Chicago. He has a fantastic operation. He has great systems. He has a great partner that he works with. Again, all ingredients, right, of growing a successful business. Whether you're building an Amazon business or whether you're building any other kind of business, Eddie would be successful in whatever he does. So I'm excited to bring him to you today. He'll share with us, I believe Eddie has a Facebook group, and so we'll post that in there as well. And any other links or tags that you want to put Eddie, we'll add those here in the comment section. So Eddie is a world traveler. We were just talking pre-show. He's traveled over 200,000 miles just in the past year, visiting trade shows, working with suppliers, and doing many things focused around his business. Eddie, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with us today.
Dude, anything for you. Appreciate you having me on the invite.
Awesome. All right, so we just want to get right into the show, Eddie. We try to stay away from the fluff in this series. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started selling on Amazon, how you heard about it.
My name is Eddie Levine. I am a picky eater. I like drinking Honest Kids apple juice. No, I'm just kidding. That's true though, but it's not related to this. Okay, selling side. So I started selling. I was in e-commerce since 2003. That was my other business, and then I started this specific company in 2012. Our business with this company has evolved. It seems like it's daily, but it's evolved a few times over the last 7, 8 years. Started in retail arbitrage, didn't do any online arbitrage, which is a little bit unique, I guess, because people usually do a little bit of both. We didn't really do any online. Did that about 2.5 years. Then we went to closeout liquidation type stuff. Then we evolved again for the third time to more traditional wholesale buying, not necessarily closeouts, but just whatever we could get our hands on that companies would sell wholesale. Then we evolved the fourth time, mainly because the market conditions were changing. And as you know, you're being an Amazon seller yourself, and this, if you're newer to Amazon, this will may or may not be news to you, but Amazon is constantly evolving, constantly changing. So you have to keep up with the pace of the e-commerce market. So what we saw is that the wholesale model was getting, not that it was getting too difficult, it's just that there was a lot more competition coming on and giving false information to brands and not really being a team player in terms of representing them well or being fair to other people who are trying to sell their products. So what we decided to do is just really focus on brand management. So that's what we do now for pretty much night and day, working exclusively or semi-exclusively with brands to represent them on the platform and basically operate sort of like private label, because we're doing the same analytics and the same research required as a private label seller would do. And incidentally, I am getting into private label myself. My girlfriend and I are doing some stuff together with that. So that's our business now. And I mean, maybe if we have another interview in 2021 or 2022, I'll be doing something else. Who knows?
Oh, that's awesome, because, like you just said, a lot of times people get stuck, and they think that their way is the only way. But I love how you've been able to, kind of see like what's ahead, and you've been able to shift, which is really hard to do. Like, you make it sound like it's easy, but I imagine that there were a lot of conversations, with your partner, and a lot of research, each time you shifted.
I'd have to dig them up, but there's literally text conversations or Slack conversations that I have with Greg, and it's nothing but us going back and forth on like, hey, remember when this, remember when this, remember when that. It was like, one was like, remember that $70 paycheck? Remember that we bought those like rusty old whatever, and then remember this, remember that. I was like, oh, good times.
So let's go back then, and when did you first see the opportunity on Amazon? Like, wow, like this could be a real thing.
So for those of you who don't know the story on how I started this business, it was kind of accidental. I actually wasn't even looking for it. I was working at the time, way back when, in IT. I was doing sales, my $25K a year job that every college student would dread when they first get out of college, because they got a lot of loans to pay off and stuff. But whatever. I was doing that job, and I was sitting at my desk, and just at the time I was getting by, but it was tough. Like, it was, you get the credit card bill every month, and it was like, damn it. So I get this text message, right? And I totally forgot I had done it, but I had gone on this liquidation website, and I'd put in what they call a sealed bid. So for those of you who don't know what a sealed bid is, it's basically you bid on a lot or a mix-up product or something, but you put in your max number and you don't know what the other bids are. So basically they pool all the bids together, and whoever's got the highest bid at the end of the auction will win. So there's no like bidding up against each other, but it's just, highest bidder wins, and you got one shot. Okay, fine. So I found this liquidation auction. It was for bunch of electronics, like dish network, satellite dishes, like these huge things you put in your yard, wireless keyboards, cell phone cases, like those cheap ones that are like the worst thing to sell on Amazon, and whatever, because I didn't know what that was at the time. I bought a bunch of that stuff, probably like, I don't know, like 600-700 pieces, just miscellaneous, whatever. So when I saw the auction, I'm like, well, me being an idiot, not knowing what to do with this stuff, like, it'll sell, I'll sell it, no big deal. I mean, I'll throw $5,000 at it. It's only 25% of my salary for the year, 20% of my salary for the year, who cares? So I'm like, I'm not going to win, it's whatever. And then so like 3 days went by. So I'm sitting at my desk, right? And I've got like my desk right here. I've got my phone, like, got my phone like right here on my desk, and I'm looking up above it, and I see my phone gets a notification, right? It's from Capital One. It says, you're now over your credit limit. You've just charged $5,000 from whatever. I about lost it. I was like, okay, so the first thing I'm thinking of, I'm a logistics guy. So the first thing I'm thinking of is not how am I going to pay that off. I mean, I was panicked, but my first instinct was, where am I going to put it?
Right.
Like, forget about paying it, right? But that should have been my primary concern. So ended up bringing it into the house, and no warehouse at the time. Brought it in the house. Had to get it freight delivered up my driveway, and went through it and started listing on Amazon, and that's pretty much where it started. That was pre-RA days, which it's a good thing we got moved into a storage facility at the time, or something out of my driveway, because there's a lot of we'll call them special people in my neighborhood, and one of them decided to call the police, saying I was being suspicious when I sorted that out in the middle of the night. that was a fun conversation of, do you have a receipt for this? I'm like, well, not really.
So those started selling right away then, or they sold, I imagine, and like that's when you're like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, we sold. It was lucky. It was definitely lucky. I mean, we probably went through it all in about 2 or 3 months, which, with that kind of stab and not knowing what in the heck you're doing, it could be a lot worse. So I think after 2 or 3 months, we maybe had, 25, 50 products left over that were the cheaper stuff. Wasn't that big of a deal. We didn't make a killing on it. We definitely covered expenses, but it wasn't like we, threw extra or anything.
So how long did you stay working then full time at another job before you took the leap?
About a year, year and a half. Yeah, it wasn't too long. There was a lot of changes going on in my last job. Just good company, but fundamental changes, management changes, that it just was the right time. It just, you get that feeling, and then things kind of line up. They say everything happens for a reason, and I was seeing these things, certain things related to the business and not related to the business, kind of all lining up and pointing me in the right direction. So I'm a firm believer in that.
And the reason I ask that is, I'll get asked that question a lot from folks that are just starting on Amazon. They have a full-time job, and the question always is, how much do I need to be selling, or when should I take the leap into selling on full-time? What's your take on that?
Depends who you are and what your situation is. So I was a single guy with no kids. And at the time I was living comfortably. So it just, I got to pay $5,000 on a credit card and I can float debt, whatever, who cares? It was a great time to learn, I'll tell you that much. But, if I was where I am today and I had to take that kind of leap, or if I had kids and if I had a family and I had a mortgage, it's a different story, right? So, like you said in the beginning, this is not an easy business. I read someone today, there was a Facebook post that came up, promoted and sponsored on my feed this morning, from someone who, is just telling you, she's like, I can teach you how to she's like, I can teach a busy person who's, caught up with their job, how to make money on Amazon. I'm like, it's a terrible way to promise someone to make money, right? Because this is not like a hobby thing. If you actually want to take this seriously, I mean, yeah, people do it as a hobby, but if you want to actually make money, it's going to take work. So just, I don't know, that frustrates me. I hate that. I really hate that. It's gotten worse, like really bad over the last few years. I remember, like, when I first talked to you back in 2014, 2015, I mean, there was none of that. I mean, it was so much easier to just navigate and talk to people. God.
Yeah. And, I think, and this is one of the reasons for this interview series, is people don't understand, when you are operating a physical product, inventory-based business, there are a lot of things that go into it that aren't necessarily part of other businesses that you may start. Like, I see that as one of the biggest challenges that folks have. And again, it comes down to capital allocation and it comes down to cash flow. Because even though when you're selling millions of dollars a year, that cash flow is a continual issue, because it means you got to place more orders, right? Yep. And so, managing that piece of it is something that I think a lot of folks don't necessarily understand.
People have a dream. Not all of them are realistic, though. That lifestyle or that success looks awesome, and I can do that. But then you don't think about what goes into it, or they don't think about the stamina it's going to take, or the drain that's going to happen. Sometimes it's fine. It's not meant for everybody, but people tend to promise themselves these things, and then it doesn't work out, and then they get themselves into trouble, or then they have problems, and it spreads to other people and other relationships. It's not a good thing. So you got to be really careful.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us a little bit, how basically what you've said is, when you started, you've kind of pivoted 4 different ways. What are some of the things that, as the, CEO or the, chief operating officer, right? You got the 10,000 square feet view. What are the things that you focus on or concentrate on? Is it sourcing? Is it, inventory management? Is it relationship with suppliers? Like, what do you see as the most significant piece that you do?
I would say it's a mix between, I was going to say 2 things, but I'll add 3 things. So, first thing would be more supplier relationships, building that connection, right? So even when I was in wholesale, before we did brand management, I was, contrary to what a lot of the courses and a lot of the gurus would tell you, is, you could just, send out this letter, or you could just contact people on the phone or an email. I was never about that. I was always about, you need to get out in person, whether you go, see them at a trade show, or you go meet with them face to face at their office, something to set yourself apart. Because I was, I explained, I said, look, there are, any given day, 10, 20, 30 people contacting these companies that get through and are asking the same question you are. So how are you going to differentiate yourself? Because if they're getting contacted, 150 times a week, but then only one of them took the opportunity to actually meet them or ask for a meeting, who are they going to remember, right? So I've kind of stuck with that principle from then and through now. So with my suppliers that I talk to now, I always want to build that face-to-face connection. And like I've told people before, I said, they say, well, what do you mean you do? How would you define, or how would you, rate doing that? How would you get in front of them? And I'm like, or they say, they ask me, like, is it worth it? I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. I'm like, if I could charge you $300, $400 to get a great contact, great supplier for a new product, and be able to increase your revenue and your profits, for the rest of the year, for long term, would you pay it? And every time the answer is undoubtedly, well, yeah, of course I would. But then they look at me like I'm crazy when I say, great, get on an airplane and go meet him, because that's how much it costs. Right? Yeah. Don't look at me like I'm crazy, because I just proved it wrong. I just proved you, right? So it's, and I get that not everyone can do that because not everyone's full time, whatever. I get that. I'm just trying to put numbers to make sense here. So that's the kind of thing there. So it's that part there with building the supplier relationships, and then I think the other half is the other 1/3 is logistics process. So the inventory, the logistics. I come from a logistics background with previous roles and corporate jobs, so that is like the numbers game to me, and the forecasting and the planning is I can almost do in my head. I can't do it in my head for a lot of things. So like my business partner Greg hates that stuff. He anything with warehousing or forecasting or trying to build out a container, cube dimensions, stuff like that, none of that. But then on the flip side, the analytics, the research part, the drivers, the sales drivers, the trends, peaks, all that stuff, I hate that stuff. That's just boring to me. Right. It's a part of the business that's required, but I just don't like it. It's just not fun, right? Right. Gotta have fun when you're in business, and it's just not my cup of tea. But it's a good thing is we can spread that out. And I guess the third thing is that I travel. I'm master at travel.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. So if you're not friends with Eddie, I highly recommend you troll his Facebook wall, and you'll see the many places that he travels, the many types of foods that his girlfriend gets him to try, because he's not very adventurous, right? When it comes to trying new foods out.
She made me start an Instagram at Eddie Tries Food if you want to see me gag every single day.
And so it's full of great stuff. He has an amazing girlfriend. We know her as well. She's a phenomenal Amazon seller. And so they are often traveling all over the world together, and a very, very fun couple to watch and see what they do and build. So real quick, just two more questions here, Eddie. What are some challenges that you see, in your business or that Amazon sellers themselves are facing? And then the last question is, what type of advice would you give to a new Amazon seller who's just starting out and getting in the business?
Well, I think the challenges we face in our business is kind of like you said before, continuing to successfully grow while maintaining, the cash flow, and also maintaining just relationships with suppliers and making sure that you have the competitive edge, right? Brands are getting smarter. They've already been realizing for a number of years, and they're going to continue to realize that Amazon is the channel for them to sell on, and it's got tremendous power, not only just on Amazon as well, but it impacts their other sales channels, both offline and online. So they're really going to be looking for not only, if you're working with a brand, they're going to be looking for the right partner. But if you're not working with a brand, if you're a private label seller exclusively, there's going to be that competition that you face online, right, with the same type of products. And no matter what you're making, if you're making something in housewares or toys or lawn and garden or pet or baby, it doesn't matter, right? You're going to have those bigger companies, those people who have those dollars behind them that are learning this stuff coming up against you. I think it's going to get much more competitive in the space. I think that's the challenge, really. And then from a seller perspective, I think that sellers don't a lot of sellers, newer sellers, I should say, don't realize how fragile and how privileged it is to be able to operate a business on Amazon, and that you really are in their sandbox. I see it time and time again. People, they complain, well, this is not fair. They can't do this to me, blah, 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 blah. And they complain about Amazon saying that it just, they have it out for them. And I scratch my head there because I'm thinking to myself, well, they did design the website. They do technically own the customers. You are piggybacking on their customer base, and essentially, you're paying for it with fees and stuff, but you're not paying for that customer list, if kind of thing.
Real quick, so I just read, I didn't know this, just in 2019, Amazon invested $15 billion in the third-party network, so warehousing, logistics, $15 billion. It was their largest one-year capital investment in 3P that they've ever done in a year.
I remember when we first started, the closest warehouse we were shipping to, mind you, I'm in Chicago. The closest warehouse we were shipping to was somewhere in Hebron, Kentucky, I think it was, CBG something. Now I've got one that's, first off, I've got cross-dock facilities 70 miles away in like 3 different directions. And then I've got those local terminals now that have like the people that deliver locally for you. I've got one like 10 miles down the street. So think about that, right? From an investment perspective, yes, they've invested a lot into the facilities, but think about how much they've spread into blanket the entire country. Their goal, in case you haven't been following it, but their goal is literally to be in your backyard. Like they don't want you to move an inch, and if they can deliver within an hour to as many places as possible, that's what they're going to do. People laugh when they talked about the whole drone thing. Whatever. I mean, look, it might be a few years down the road, but it's going to happen. Trust me.
Oh, 100%.
It's going to happen. Okay. I mean, I've now toured the Amazon facilities, different variations of them, 4 to 5 different times, and it is. If you haven't done that, by the way, they now have it publicly available for free on like all these different places, and you can just Google Amazon warehouse tours. That is a sight to see. It's free and it's an hour long. Your jaw will be on the floor.
No, I love that. And I mean, I agree 100%. Their goal, I think, is to be able to deliver within 2 hours, 2 to 4 hours for sure, same day delivery. And they're going to get there. They're already there, I think, with over 10 million Prime customers where they can do that same day delivery.
It's like when we explain to brands and they sometimes they don't understand, well, why do we have to be Prime eligible? I'm like, because look at the customer base. Everyone is Prime. I mean, you want to be the one guy who doesn't cater to 90% of the customers? Why would you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I still think, too, that if you look at the history really of the world and any industry, there has never been a shift like we've seen in the last 20 years. Literally, trillions of dollars have shifted from retail purchases to now a click of a mouse. Within 20 years, we've seen a shift of trillions of dollars of spending. And I would be willing to bet that if you looked in the history of humanity, there hasn't been that shift, that transfer with that a great amount of wealth in any industry like we've seen.
Every time I go on Amazon, I find myself saying to myself, okay, there's no way they're going to get this thing in a day because this is like the most ridiculous, odd, non-popular product. Like, I'm trying to find something that I bought recently. Oh yeah, like these things. Okay, these things are shields that go on the top of security cameras, right? It's just like dust covers and like okay, I'm going the wrong way here. Yeah. But it like dust covers and it like shields the light from hitting the camera. I'm like, there can't be a huge demand for that. It's like, come on. Nope, they got it locally. They got it at my 10-mile location. They'll be here within an hour. Like, seriously? I mean, can you imagine what kind of stuff they've got in the warehouse? If they've got stuff like this just on the ready, it's not just your common stuff. This is like stuff that, I mean, Home Depot probably sells once a week, if that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think they continue to work with third-party sellers who are offering seller fulfilled Prime. And they're very tight, man, on their delivery times. Like, I've had my seller fulfilled Prime suspended 2 different times. If it drops below like a 99%, on-time delivery rate, then you're gone,
Dude, we don't do seller fulfilled Prime because it's not our model.
Right.
But I understand some people do. But in the holiday season, we have some brands that just, for whatever reason, mostly because it's like, larger stuff that goes to different facilities or it's hazmat type stuff that we had to do FBM because of the holiday crunch time, and we had to put it on FBM and offer it. But man, there was one day that we forgot to ship on time, so there was like 6 orders that were late. So I'm like, whatever. Like, we upped the shipping and it got to the buyer on time. No, that still wasn't good enough for Amazon because you shipped late.
Right.
And the worst part was they rate you by like a trailing 10, a trailing 30 days.
Right.
So then I all of a sudden found that once we stopped shipping FBM, well, all my good orders would fall off and my late ones were on there. So my late shipment rate was like 28%. And of course I got Amazon emailing me saying, what's going on? And I'm like, it was one day.
Right.
But that's how it is, right? And
I have respect for that.
I do, but
it's hard as sellers, but it builds that customer trust, right?
That's why they're so successful. But then you see the emails come through and they say, "Oh, missed delivery promise," like every other day. And I'm like, "What about that?" Right. But that's what I'm saying. When people say Amazon's not fair, they do that, blah blah. Yeah, exactly. It's not fair. It's a very do as I say, not as I do. Get over it.
Right.
That's simple. If you don't like that mentality, this is not for you.
Absolutely. And that's great advice for new sellers coming in. And, I think, Eddie, like even in 2014, 2015, I used to hear that a lot more as well, that, look, this is Amazon sandbox. So, if you want to play the game, just understand Amazon is right all the time and you got to play by their rules. They've built the biggest, most massive sales channel in the history of the world, online sales channel. And so they have a right to say, hey, look, this is the standard. You need to meet this standard. And if you don't, you're not going to be on our platform.
Yep.
So cool. All right. Well, hey, I'm going to let you go. Those of you that are watching, again, this is Eddie Levine.